All right, what is going on, guys? This is Caleb Cruz here with AdTalk by AdClass, and I am joined with, you guys know who it is, Dakota Hermes. Dakota Hermes is here with me. And today we are going to be talking about how to win customers and sell to people. So whether you're a business owner that is looking to win customers and sell things to people, or maybe you're just somebody who is currently someone who buys stuff and you get sold to, right? This is going to be an interesting discussion because we're going to talk a lot about how advertisers think about the process of really selling to customers. So it should be an enlightening conversation no matter where you are on the spectrum, and definitely excited to get into it.
Let's go. I'm excited to jump into this one because this is almost like this is a discussion that I feel like it's so basic sounding that like people don't actually break it down step by step. Like, you know, ultimately advertisers, customers, anybody out there is like, well, yeah, I mean, I see ads all the time. So like, I know that there are ads out there and I know that I buy stuff from them, right? But I think what's fascinating about it is that like there's a ton of thought that goes into every step of the buyer journey that most people just kind of don't know about. And so that's kind of what we're going into today. If you're an advertiser or a business owner, this is going to give you some clarity on maybe how to address the buyer journey, which is what we call it. How do you find people out there who don't know about you, who have never heard of your offer? And how do you turn them into people who need the thing that you have to offer, right? It's difficult, but that's what marketing is all about, that exact process. And so that's kind of what we're going to walk through today. There are 3 steps really that we're going to talk about today. The first step in this journey of how to win customers that don't know about you is what is called audience awareness. So really all we're talking about is, do you know your audience? Right? Do you understand your audience at a deep level? Do you really know the people that you should be going after with your marketing? A lot of people out there probably lack this step first, and that's why their ads don't work. That's why their business never takes off. They're trying to be all things to all people, which we know in marketing and in life is not usually a great strategy. So Caleb, what would you say people need to do to get a better awareness of their audience?
Great question. And I think it's really boils down to knowing versus understanding, right? You talked a little bit about both of those. And I think a lot of people, business owners and advertisers, they come to this situation where they're like, I know who my target customer is, right? It's 30-year-old women who, like to jog or whatever it is, right? And you kind of like have an idea of what the avatar is, but there's a difference between knowing who your avatar is and actually understanding deeply who your avatar is, right? Because knowing someone and understanding them are 2 very different things, right? If you think about it from a normal relationship type of perspective, right? You can know somebody, but you can also like truly understand somebody, right? And I think that's the biggest difference between somebody who has run successful marketing campaigns, has a successful business, and is providing a service or offer or product that truly solves a problem or pain point for somebody else, right? And I think it's understanding. So the question is, how do you understand somebody, right? Like how do you get deep inside somebody's mind to understand what they're dealing with, what they're struggling with, what they truly want, what their goals are, right?
And just to pause there for a second, Caleb, too, because you said something that reminds me just of like a key to successful relationships, which is like, how do you actually understand where someone is coming from, which is basically just empathy, right? And people don't think about empathy being something that helps advertisers or marketers, but if you have that ability to put yourself in the shoes of your customer or your potential audience, right? You're steps in front of everybody else that's doing what you're doing because you can actually think of things from their point of view. And I think that's really interesting because empathy is like, I mean, that's just a common human like nature skill that people should have. And I mean, a lot of people don't have it. And marketers specifically probably don't think about the fact that they should have empathy when they're designing their marketing campaigns, because basically that's exactly how people are going to view your marketing campaign is through their own lens,
For sure. Yeah, exactly. It's like what a novel concept, right? Like the marketer who doesn't just write stuff to try to sell stuff and make money versus the marketer who writes stuff to truly solve someone's situation, right? Thanks for jumping in with that. But I think now the question becomes, okay, well, cool. If I want to, be a successful advertiser, how do I actually understand my audience, right? And there's a couple of different ways to do that. and honestly, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I think some of the easiest things to do are, first off, you should try to figure out where they hang out. Obviously, online, there's tons of different areas where people hang out. Social media, a Facebook group, could be a blog or a forum, right? There might be a specific website where like there's a lot of members that hang out in this community or whatever. But what I would do if I'm somebody who's trying to figure out and understand my audience is I'd go to where they're actually hanging out and inject yourself into the conversations with them, or at least, at the very least, be a fly on the wall to observe their conversation. I think that that's huge. And I think that like you can learn so much by simply going to like a forum or a blog and just reading what certain people are asking, or the problems that they're facing, the things that they're dealing with. It's insanely valuable to your marketing at the end of the day. So I'd say that's one of the first things you could do, is really just figure out
Dude,
where they're
yeah.
hanging out and go see. Yeah. So,
Well, and the other thing too, I like you said, figure out where they're hanging out and not assume where they're hanging out, because like
mm,
one thing that I think almost like take a step back from this whole audience conversation is that so many people just assume that they know everything about their target audience. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is knowing versus understanding. The assumption that you think you know where these people are hanging out is already the wrong first step, right? And so like
right.
a lot of the brands that we work with, let's just use an example. Someone is selling things, maybe their demographic is women over the age of 45, right? They just assume automatically that those people, for whatever reason, aren't on Instagram, right? Because Instagram is like a young person's platform. But then the data
Right.
shows, if you run ads to Instagram, that it performs super well. That assumption would have kept them from succeeding, because just because they're not on Instagram, or they don't know, someone that is on Instagram in that demographic, does not mean that there are not people on there. So I think assuming is kind of like the number one thing, like no when it comes to understanding your audience, because we got to
Mm.
understand there's millions and millions and millions of people out there, and you don't know what all of them are up to all the time. You know what I mean? And so always approaching it from like ground zero of like, oh, maybe they're on TikTok. Let's look at TikTok and see if there are any trending creators that are in this demographic. See if there's anybody talking about the stuff that I'm talking about with my brand, right? One little tip too that we found works really well in audience discovery, and I'll pass it back to you because I know you have more to share, is like go to Amazon and find like some books or something that sells about your topic. Books is a really good one. Like if you mentioned like women who are 30 and are into jogging, as a demographic, if you went onto Amazon and found a book or two that's about like how to have a jogging habit, or how to get into cardio for women, in that age range or whatever, and then you go to the reviews of that book, you start to see what people are actually talking about. They might say, this is a great book. It taught me how to do boom, 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 boom. Those are the things your audience are talking about, right? Or you might see,
Yep.
this book stunk. I went through it, didn't build a running habit. It didn't help me at all. Here's what I wish it would have said. Boom. That's what you need to be addressing in your marketing, right? And
Yeah.
people forget that there's just a plethora of online reviews and videos and content that they can be scrubbing to figure out, what are your people actually talking about? What do they care about? What's actually the thing that is causing them to have pain or to be desiring something better in the marketplace? That's the thing you should be talking about, right?
Yes, yes, exactly, man. And I think the only other thing I'll add there before we move on to the second point of discussion is, if you already have existing customers, you're also at an advantage here, because you can always talk to your existing customers. One of the things that we often will see works really, really well is doing some sort of survey, especially if you've got a
Mm.
pretty decent customer base and you want to offer some sort of prize or reward for completing the survey, or one person gets this if everyone fills this sort of a thing out. Getting in touch with your existing customer base, no one's going to know your customers better than your customers, right? So if you have that, right, you have the data. That's another really, really intelligent thing to do, is reach out, have them fill out a form, a survey, ask them the deep questions. Don't be afraid, really dig into it, and see why they bought your service, what they were dealing with, like, and all that fun stuff. So that kind of leads us into point two, right? Which is, if you understand your audience, right? That's the key that we just discussed. Not just knowing them, but if you understand your audience, what is the second thing that you do, Dakota?
Once you kind of know where they're hanging out, the types of things they're thinking about, You know their daily routine looks like.
Mhm.
What they enjoy for leisure. You know their motivators. What do they really want out of life, right? We're talking deep questions here.
Yeah.
Once you know that stuff, then you really understand your audience. Now you can actually start to communicate to your audience, right? And this is where marketing comes into play, right? So the audience piece is like what we would call targeting. You're starting there. Now you know who you're going after, and you know sort of how to talk to them a little bit. So now it comes to the part where you're actually going to talk to them. So this is just communicating with your audience. And so ultimately, like this piece, I would say is it's super important, but people focus more on the communication than the understanding a lot of times.
Mm. Yep.
And so I'll put it this way, right? Like it goes back to being all things to all people. Let's use another hypothetical example. Let's say we made a running shoe for women who are 30, right? Specifically for them, right? This running shoe is perfect for women who are 30 years old. It's going to help them get into shape, and it's going to support their feet the right way. It's going to be, perfect for them. This running shoe is only going to work for them though.
Right.
What some people do wrong in this communication piece is that they come to the table and say, I've got this great shoe and I know people need it. Let's just put it out there. Let's just do awareness ads and let's show this shoe to everyone and let's just get some sales, right? Make sure everybody knows about this brand and this shoe. And they try to be all things to all people. Unfortunately, the shoe was only made for one specific person, out there, one specific type of person. And so I might see that ad. I'm not going to click it. You might see that ad, Caleb. You're not going to click it. Maybe an
Mhm.
18-year-old, scrolling through Instagram sees the ad. They're not going to click it. It looks like a mom shoe to them. You know what I mean? Etc. Right? People who aren't runners are going to see it. They're not going to click it. And you're losing so much of your audience and the virality that could be happening because you're
Mhm.
not communicating to the right people. So the
Yeah.
communication could be totally on point. It could be like the best ad ever, totally amazing, in all ways, shapes, and forms. But if it's being sent to the wrong audience, it's not going to convert. So that's why I'm saying like the second piece is important, communication, which we're about to talk about. But still, we started with audience for a reason because it's like you got to talk to the right people to make this thing work, right? So yes, point two, now that we've covered that, is communication. So Caleb, in order to win customers and sell to people, how do you recommend communicating to the prospects?
Yeah. So, well, at the end of the day, it all comes down to copywriting, right? So this is a whole like industry in itself is like at the actual communication aspect, right? So I think once you have that understanding, it moves to okay, well now I need to write some stuff down, right? So I think you have to consider, well, what do I write down? What am I writing for? Typically with people that we help, the first thing that we're writing is going to be a longer form piece of copy that you can start to extract components from for other things. And so I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. Inside of AdClass, we actually talk about this as like the 3-point copy formula. But basically, if you can take the time to write one long form ad correctly, right, with all of the elements that that long form ad should have, what's great is, of course, you can use it as an ad, right? You can just go ahead and post it up with an image and boom, you've got an advertisement running now with that long form ad. But what's also cool about it is that you can extract things from it as well. So, right now, as we all know in our day and age, short form video content is kind of like the king when it comes to running ads nowadays. But people ask all the time, well, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say in that ad, right? Like I don't know what I'm supposed to say in front of the camera, right? They get all camera shy. Well, the cool thing is if you've taken the time to actually write out a long form ad correctly, you can pull multiple different short form ads from that one ad, right?
Mhm.
And so I always start with saying, hey, get that down on paper first. You can pull scripts from it as well, and then you can also pull web page and funnel copy from it too, right? So if you're
Mhm.
somebody that's like, I don't know what's right on my landing page, or I don't know what to throw on my website, right? One long form ad that's done really well, you'll be able to pull different snippets from. So that's what I
Yeah.
would say is like, once you have that understanding, dive into that. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dakota,
So,
but
well, no,
yeah.
I want to ask you where should they even start in writing a long form ad? Like what, what works basically?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really good question. So it's hard to explain in a really short answer. That's why inside of AdClass we have all of these like frameworks and documents that like provide kind of an explanation on how to think about it. But what I guess I would say is what works is first off, starting with obviously a hook, right? You want to start with something that's going to grab the attention of the audience, right? You've done all that research, you understand them. Okay, what's going to get their attention, right? A good hook. After you've done
Yep.
the hook, typically we move into a transition of providing credibility for yourself, building authority. Why should the person read the rest of the ad that you've written, right? Like what makes you
Mm-hmm.
different and special? And then
Yep.
after that, we like to basically break down what that person probably currently believes, right? So if you understand somebody, you know what they probably already think about this niche or sphere that you're discussing, right? And if you
Yep.
know what they already believe, what you can do is you can say, actually, those things aren't the case, right? Those things aren't true. That's actually not the right way to think about it. Here's how we think about it. And this is why it's the right way to think about it, right? And so that's
Yep.
what we call a little bit about like breaking beliefs and rebuilding beliefs. Then we move into educating, right? Okay, now that you've got them to or basically rebuild their beliefs in the way that you're thinking, you now explain to them, okay, this is how my process works, right? And this is why it's working so well. And then you move into a call to action, right? At the end, you're basically like, hey, this is the thing that I've done. Go ahead and check it out or whatever. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of a really simplistic way. There's
I
a
love
lot
it.
more to that, but at a high level, yeah. So
No, that's really good. So let me see if I can. I'm going to just go off the dome here, and we're using shoes for a 30-year-old woman
okay,
here. Okay, so
I
that's
love it.
that's
I love
that's
it.
the product. Okay, so I'm just going to go off the dome. You might have to help me remember the pieces, but the first piece is the hook, right? And you said that the
Yes,
hook should capture attention. So for the
yes,
hook, if we're writing to women who are 30 who are trying to get into running or maybe are runners, and we have a running shoe for them, the hook needs to be something that's going to be memorable for them. And so maybe a
hmm
pain point that we know about our audience is that they can no longer run as far as they used to because their feet hurt, right? Something like that.
right,
So a
right,
hook might be, are you tired of that next day soreness after a long run,
yeah,
right? Something like that.
yeah,
And then the next line would be, it's not like it used to be. It seems like we used to be able to run 3, 4, 5 miles without being sore the next day. But
yeah,
now our feet, blah, 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 right? And going like that. So now
right,
automatically we're talking about a pain point. People are like, oh, shoot, that's me. And they're reading, right? Might not be a great
yep,
example. I don't know what women who are 30 deal with when they're trying to get into running, but I'm assuming that might be one of them. Right.
yep,
I mean, we all get old and our bodies all fail us. So, unfortunately. Now, you said the next piece is build credibility, right?
that's right, yeah,
So this person, let's just say who the person selling these running shoes used to be, an Olympic athlete, an Olympic
hmm
runner, right? Well,
yeah,
hey, I'm so and so, and I've been there. I used to be the world champion at the 2 mile race, and it's killed me for years and years that I can't get back into shape like I used to. And I realized over time that it actually wasn't because my body was failing me, but it's because my equipment wasn't designed for my aging
hmm
body. Right.
yep.
And so
And
now
so
you're building
right
credibility.
there, you started breaking down the person's current beliefs. I don't know if you guys caught him do that, but right away he's like, it's not actually our bodies, right? Like, because that person probably has been told, well, my legs are sore because I'm getting older,
Yep.
or I've
That's
been
just the
running
way
for
it
so
is.
long that, yeah, it's just the way that it
Mhm.
is, right? But yeah, that's funny that you just jumped right
Yeah,
into that.
that's
Right?
funny.
That's
Okay,
great.
so the credibility builder was, hey, I know I've been there. I'm a runner. I'm actually the best runner. Here's when I got a gold medal, whatever it is. And then into, like you said, breaking belief patterns. Here, the breaking the belief pattern is, you've been told that you just can't run like you used to because you're 30 now. How could you
hmm
run like an 18-year-old? So many people are saying that it's just not going to be possible anymore. I guess you should start using the elliptical. I guess you got to just do the stair stepper. Cardio can't look the same as it used to, right? You're
Yeah.
really building up the pain of that belief pattern. And then you break it and you say something like, "But I actually designed a running shoe that proves the exact opposite is true." Because
Right.
now more than ever, I can run miles and miles without being sore the next day. Maybe I'm not at my PR like I was in Olympic shape, but that's not the point. I'm in shape, I'm enjoying running again, and I have equipment that supports me the right way, right? Now
Yep.
we've rebuilt the belief pattern that it is possible. And if your product is actually good and it does what you're claiming, this is completely ethical because you're actually describing a new thing to someone that hasn't thought of it
Yep.
before, right? So
Exactly.
it's like some people are like, well, shoot, what if I mean, if you really have to break someone's belief pattern, is it a good thing that you're marketing to them? It's only a good thing if your product or your offer is actually going to fulfill on what you're making them believe in the ad, right? If you have a
Hmm.
good product
Hmm.
though, then absolutely they need to know about it.
Yeah, so then the last piece, man, is moving into the call to action, right? So like maybe,
Yeah.
in your example, right, it's like you're launching a new version of that shoe and you want people to get on the wait list or something, right? And
Okay.
so
So it'd be
yeah,
like, yeah, so that's why I created, Run Shoe 30. It's my brand new debut into running shoes. And you might be thinking, you know, what does this Olympic athlete got to do with running shoes? What do you know about it? Well, I just want to, ease your mind. We're actually working with the team at Adidas to produce this shoe, and you can
yeah,
actually join the wait list just by clicking the link below and throwing in your email. Once
boom.
it's released, we'll send you an email and you'll be able to check it out right there. Right. And there's your call to action.
Exactly.
But really, the point there is just be clear and concise. Like, how do they get it? Why should they get it? And is there any urgency involved? Right.
So the thing to kind of just like sum up this whole like second point of communicating, right, is that what Dakota just did is he walked you through like a whole ad, super high level, right, on like on the shoes. But the thing is if you heard the way that Dakota was basically walking through that ad and how he like his tone and how he was speaking, you can hear how naturally whoever that Olympic runner is in this scenario, right, could read through that script and boom, now it's a video ad as well, right?
Yeah.
Or hey, can we take certain chunks of what Dakota said and put that on a landing page? Could we use certain chunks of what Dakota said to help us write a VSL, right, or a video sales letter, right, which is kind of maybe a hype reel about the shoe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so anyways, all that to say is like taking time to write one quality long form ad allows you to kind of it's basically like a seed that gets planted and then you can grow from there. So
Yeah, that's good. And
yeah,
and let it be known that like we just made that example up on the fly. So that was not a good quality long form ad, but imagine you spending 3 hours doing that, right? That would be all it would
yeah,
take is spend a few hours to really think about this thing through that
yeah,
structure that we talked about. And you would have the best ad ever after 3 hours. You know what I mean? And then that's like Caleb
exactly.
said, you repurpose it into a million different things.
Exactly. And not only taking that 3 hours to write, which is huge, but then also, like Dakota said before, right? The important piece is understanding the audience. So then tack on, well, what if you spend a few hours going through like Adidas blogs on like what people are complaining about with their shoes, or go through
Mhm.
the Adidas website and look at the most popular shoes that were purchased and what do the reviews say, right? Like do all of that research, right? And then go down and sit down for 3 hours, write your ad, and you're going to be in a much better spot. So
Heck yeah.
yeah, okay. So you understand your audience. You've written some insanely awesome communication to them. Now, the third piece is okay, how do we get consistent results from what we're building here by actually like presenting them the offer, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, Dakota, if you want to jump into that.
I mean, honestly, it all ties back together because once you know where your audience hangs out, that's going to help you understand where you need to present your offer to the audience, right? So, just like we basically said at the very beginning, if you know where your audience hangs out, you're going to understand what platforms you should be going after, right? So put it this way, let's say we know our audience, we already have the communication down, we know what we want to say. Now the third piece is let's actually say it, and let's say it on platforms that people are actually going to see the message, right? And so right now there's people talking, about the hot platforms, whatever they are, right? We have obviously still Facebook. Anything Meta owns is still going to have a decent amount of reach with a lot of people on it. We have Instagram, right? We have TikTok, we have YouTube Shorts, all of that stuff. You have to be really strategic about how you put your message out there. And the very first step is understanding, are there people that are in your demographic and in your audience talking about your type of offer on that platform already? That's your first piece. So once you find that, then it's time to present to them, right? So the way you present is going to vary completely from platform to platform. Think of it this way: you wouldn't put a TV commercial on Facebook ads, right? Because as soon as you're
Mhm.
scrolling through a TV commercial or Facebook feed and you see something that feels like a TV commercial, what do? you definitely don't watch it, right? You skip through it because it doesn't feel like it should be there. One of the big mistakes that I see advertisers making, or just business owners who are trying to like get some traction with, their small business or whatever it is they kind of make one piece of creative or one ad or one video or whatever, and they try to put it on every platform and they try to keep it the same. Right. So as an example, it could be like a very published ad that they think looks really, really good. And it might work on a TV channel, but then they try to put it on Facebook, and then they try to put it on Instagram, and then they try to put it on YouTube, and it gets 1 or 2 views and nobody ever really cares about it or sees it. It's because they don't understand the platform that they're posting on. They're presenting something that is not feeling native to the people who use that app. And the best example I can possibly give you on this is TikTok right now. If you go on TikTok and you scroll through TikTok, you will see videos that you would never think would get millions and millions of views and millions of likes. Like you would never think it. And at least like I
So
wouldn't,
true.
being like an almost 30-year-old millennial, like I'm just not used to seeing the type of content go viral that goes viral on TikTok. But brands that have figured it out and understood that assignment, so to speak, to to steal a Gen Z phrase, they understood the assignment. They are crushing it. I'm talking about brands like Scrub Daddy. Okay, you've all seen Scrub Daddy. It's like a sponge. It's literally just a sponge. They went on Shark Tank, got a deal. It's a sponge. Okay, they are insanely huge on TikTok because it's like this totally like unhinged, like they curse. It's like not even like PG at all. It's just like, why in the world is this Scrub Daddy account so like unhinged? You know what I mean? And they're doing that because Gen Z thinks it's hilarious and they blow it up. You know what I mean? Like they're all over it. Scrub Daddy couldn't put that stuff on Facebook and it would work, right? They know that. They couldn't go to Facebook and drop an F-bomb and do like a weird reel and it would work. No, people would be offended. Moms everywhere would stop buying Scrub Daddy. But guess what?
Exactly.
They know that those moms everywhere are not on TikTok, right? They understand how to present to their audience on the right platform. So I don't know, like that I think is the number one key. You got to really study these platforms. You have to study where your people are hanging out, and you have to know how to change your message and be a little bit creative with each platform.
Yep. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. And kind of to just, basically round it out, obviously the creative is just ridiculously important in advertising too. But to kind of put a nice bow, I think, on this whole discussion of, okay, how do you win the customer, right? Is where you're sending them after they click the ad, right? And I think, this is a myriad of different things depending on what your offer or what your product is, right? If it's shoes, like we were talking about earlier, cool, you're probably going to maybe like a Shopify sales page. If it's, hey, a mentorship, real estate mentorship package, okay, well, you're probably going through a VSL funnel or video sales letter. It's going to lead you to a call book, basically like a strategy session with a salesperson, right? So I think at the end of the day, it's just like you also have to have your process and a system dialed in that is going to produce consistent results after the click, right? And so many people, like they don't spend a lot of time here. They kind of just like rush this piece. You know what I mean? A lot of times, I think you and I see this is we get people who come to us with like, well, I spun up this like really quick landing page and like I'm just going to spend tens of thousands of dollars sending people to this page, and it's like, at the end of the day, you have to have something that's been tested that converts, that you've maybe seen it work historically well for other competitors. But right. Yeah, I mean that's
or worse,
they
send people to like they send people to like their homepage, right? And they're like, well, can you just make an ad? I got a great website, and it's like, man, it's just not going to work, because we're talking here about how to win customers and sell to people. The ad is just like the very beginning of this journey. Yeah, it primes people, you're finding the right people, but once they click, you're really starting the process of them actually understanding what your brand is, because now they're seeing the page that you designed. They're not on Facebook anymore. They're not on Instagram anymore. They're on the thing that you designed, and they're going to scour that for all of the information they can possibly find about you and your brand. And so this is like the beginning of the journey, of them finding out about what you're doing.
It's so true. I'm glad you brought up the homepage thing, man, because that's one of the things I think
of course
there's so many business owners that have come to you and I both like, well, let's just turn some ads on. I've already got a website built, right? And it's like, that is so not the way to think about like running ads, because when we're running ads, it's for a very specific purpose, right? It's very, very, very specific. It's very laser targeted. Like you're shooting an arrow at a target, you're trying to hit a bullseye, right? And
Yep.
when you throw ads just going to like a random homepage, it's the exact opposite of that. It's like
Yeah,
a
it would be like
shotgun in the forest, you know? Yeah.
100%, dude. It would be like you're running an ad for a shoe, you know, and they click on that shoe ad and it takes them to the Amazon homepage. What are they going to do
Yes.
now?
Such a
Google
good
the
example.
title
Yeah.
of the shoe and, you know, try. No, man, they're going to get lost. They're on Amazon now. It's a never-ending rabbit hole, right? They're going to click on a
Right.
bunch of different
Right.
things and buy something unrelated to what they clicked on at the beginning.
Yeah. And even if you are sending them to your shoe company's homepage, still not good enough, because guess
Yeah.
what? Your ad was about the Run Shoe 30, whatever you called it, right? Like get them on the Run Shoe 30 page, right? That needs to
Right.
convert. Like you can't just send them to your shoe
That talks
homepage and
about
then
the pain points that you talked about in your ad, that proves
right.
the credibility that you talked about in your ad, that has a video of you running your Olympic race, that has a call to action with the wait list, right, that you talked about in your ad. It's all got to be lined up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So true, man. So true. It's yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I think just to kind of recap, right, for everybody else or for everybody that's listening, you know, we hit three main things here today, right? Which is one, you can't just know your audience, you have to understand them, right? That's point number one. Point number two is you need solid long form copy in order to be able to communicate. Okay, that's point number two. And then point number three is your presentation, right? Which is, do you have solid creative and are you sending them to a solid systematized process after they click the ad, right? If you knock all three of those things out and you spend quality time on those things, you will win customers and you will sell to people. So
Boom.
Dakota, any closing remarks on this podcast episode, my friend?
That was fun, man. That was a value bomb. This is the first episode that we've really dove into a marketing concept. So let us know your guys' feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If you found us on social media, if you found us in the podcast stores, I don't know what they're called, Spotify, Apple, whatever, wherever you found us, let us know. Reach out to us. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/free AdClass. We have a free group there that we just teach concepts like this in every single week. We are live in that group and we're answering questions.
Hang out with us.
Yeah, if you want to know more, it's literally just free. Honestly, just get in there and we'd love to hang out. So that's it for us at AdTalk by AdClass. We love and appreciate each and every one of you guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Catch you on the next one. See you.